What is going on, guys? It's Yoji. In this video I want to give you the update of my current SSF progress for the Archmage, Arc, Staff, Hierophant. That's the stuff that has stayed, but a lot of stuff has actually changed about the character. So what I used to do and used to progress through the story, as I mentioned in the last video, which was a very beginner friendly, very beginner oriented walk through the leveling process of this build in solo self-found. I played up until I think the first rotation of Conquerors on my Arc build with Unleash support, which lets you cast a lot of spells at once, as you can see in the gameplay footage here. And I actually really like that playstyle, but I also leveled a Spell Echo in my off socket, just in case I don't want to keep playing Unleash, because I have not really tried Unleash before, and while it synergizes really well with the Archmage's playstyle, as you get a lot of casts for the mana cost for the high mana cost of an Archmage build, you actually don't get to cast as often as you maybe want to. So what I did is, I leveled the Spell Echo, tried it out every once in a while, but I ended up not really preferring or liking it much more than the Unleash setup. So I leveled with Unleash, and I was actually quite set on doing the Crit Staff Unleash setup that I was telling you about before. But then RNGsus decided to give me a Pledge of Hands. And if you don't know that staff, it's a crazy, cool, unique staff. And it's in SSF, you basically cannot plan around getting that ever. It is a farmable card, it has a farmable divination card, but you never really want to plan around it, because otherwise it is very rare and it is a Legion only drop. But very early in my SSF progression, I got a Pledge of Hands dropped from the Legion encounter that you can get in the temple, in the temple of Atsuwadl, in the middle of the jungle. And I actually went and respec the whole character and the whole build around the Pledge of Hands, which I'm using right now. So if you don't know what Pledge of Hands is a staff. It's on a Judgment staff base, which actually gives 20% spell block chance now, which means we are spell block capped, but not attack block capped. But we are, I think, over 60% spell attack block now, which is, I think, more than fine. It has 100% increased mana, which is awesome for an Archmage build, which leaves us at 6,400 max mana and 6,100 unreserved, which is great. And it gives you, socketed gems are supported by a level 30 Greater Spell Echo. What that means is that Greater Spell Echo is basically a support gem. It's kind of like Spell Echo, but it gives you 2 additional repeats. And we are also using, Spell Echo on our Arc, together with like Archmage, of course, Lightning Pen and Elemental Focus. 6th link would be Control Destruction. And we are, for one hit, actually casting 4 casts now. That makes it feel a bit awkward if you don't have high cast speed. And to make up for the low cast speed, I actually respec a lot of my passive tree. I'm not going crit anymore, but I will probably still pick up the Conviction of Power, because reduced elemental damage taken while you have endurance charges, and the endurance charge generation for defenses, I'm going to pick up this endurance charge as well. I think will be still be pretty good, but at the same time, I don't think... and also there's damage penetrates elemental resistances when you have a power charge. So I still think this is really good. This will also make elemental overload uptime feel really good as well. So I think it's still alright to take it. Doesn't feel as good as being crit though, but you need a lot of cast speed for Pledge of Hands. And so we pick up some cast speed here instead of the crit nodes. This cast speed over here, there's some AoE and cast speed here. The AoE is not that important, but we are using Orb Storms, so a little bit of AoE doesn't hurt. Picking up some cast speed and movement speed and dexterity over here. And I think, yeah, for now I went into Divine Judgment as well, but I'm gonna see how that all goes. I think next I'm going to pick up a life node, and then we will probably try to finally roll a good jewel. Maybe complete the Uber Lab. Currently, and on the Uber Lab progression, I have 4 trials at level 88, which is, I think, is pretty average. I had a few duplicate trials, and I'm still lacking 2 trials. So I think usually around level 90 to 93 is usually when I hit my 6 trials and do the Uber Lab, which I think is still pretty late balance-wise, but that's usually how it ends up being. And that's why I usually in SSF do not plan around making characters that need the Uber Lab to be viable. That's why I'm planning the build around like this. What's up next is, I also found, like after I spec'd into Pledge of Hands, I found an Adziri's Foible, which is not a too rare item, but it's a fantastic item for mana builds, because it's very, very difficult to craft a rare item that can compete with this. Increased mana regeneration is insane, like that 91%. Flat mana, which is great because we get a lot of increased mana, and we also have increased mana on here. On a power base, This is just good. Also, the reduced item requirements can make using some gems such as Second Wind a bit easier, but we're currently actually not utilizing that because we are fulfilling all requirements. As an anoint, I actually ran a few blighted maps until I could anoint Mind Drinker because I'm actually struggling to sustain mana. Even with 6k mana and all this regeneration, I'm struggling to sustain the mana of this build. Because Pledge of Hands, I mean, having high mana cost with Archmage means a lot of damage, and the single target of the Echo build is actually way nicer than the Unleash build. I think the clear is a bit worse, doesn't feel quite as nice, but the single target for the Echo build, the Echo version with Pledge of Hands, is pretty insane because the mana cost is so high. Current mana cost of our Arc is 1,700, and that's because this is a 6th link, and it will eventually become a 7th link, and each link gives you a mana multiplier. The Greater Spell Echo has a 150 increased mana cost multiplier, and with a high cast speed, that actually means that we are kind of struggling to sustain mana a little bit, even with the Mana Flask, Enduring Mana Flask up. Even with Dynamo and Arcane Cloak, sometimes the mana can dip a bit, and that's why Mind Trigger is insane. Mind Trigger lets us recover 2% of mana on kill. That means while clearing, we are always fine when it comes to mana sustain. The attack leech, of course, doesn't do anything. Increased maximum mana is always good. So yeah, recovering those 2% of mana on kill is great for clearing. Like, while clearing, no mana issues anymore, and for single target, so far most Conquerors usually die pretty quickly, so I don't really have any issues sustaining mana for like prolonged times. But if you actually stand still and just cast, eventually your mana will drain with the current setup. But I'm aiming to get a lot of more mana, because my gear is actually, like, if you look at my rares, they are pretty horrible. So I have this piece, it means tri-res, super low life roll, super low mana roll. ES doesn't do anything because you don't get ES as an agnostic build. That's pretty horrible. There's a power ring here with like some crafted mana, some crap like tier 2 life roll or whatever, like not even much resist. This is just like nothing. Boots is like the worst thing, is like 15% movement speed, shitty res, horrible life roll. I've actually not managed to make better boots yet. Like, whenever I had boots, I either had like no open prefix to craft anything on there, such as like either movement speed or life or mana. It just doesn't roll. I even found a Keeper of the Trove pack in an Aziri, because I wanted to get an Aziri's Promise, which I ended up getting on my second Aziri as well. That dropped Legion boots. None of them were like actually usable. Then I had the these gloves are actually fine. Yeah, for Chaos Res, I'm sitting at +7 Chaos Res right now without the Promise. So once I got the Aziri's Promise, I'm while clearing at like 40 something plus Chaos Res, so that's actually fine. This piece of gear is nice. The mana roll could be way higher. The mana roll here is horrible. There's not even a mana. Oh, there's a mana roll here. Yeah, like 30 mana. So there's a lot of potential still to get like 7, maybe 8k-ish mana on this build, like pretty easily. The belt also could have a way better life roll. The phasing on Kill Jewel is kind of cool, so that's a plus. But yeah, overall, as you can see, my rare gear is not that great. The jewel I'm using here is freaking Assassin's Haste from the quest line. I mean, it's cast speed, mana regen, and movement speed. It's not bad. Like, this is all useful stats, right? But it's not insane. So yeah, my gear, as you can see, is pretty horrible. My flasks as well. That's why I'm not using the Aziri's Promise yet, because I was not successful in 100 alts to roll a Enduring Mana Flask with either an open suffix or a suffix that I can use to replace one of these flasks, because I either need curse removal or I need bleed removal, probably staunching, actually. So I can replace this Basalt with an Aziri's Promise. But yeah, doesn't work. So far the build clears well, feels actually pretty damn tanky for being at 4k life. The mana defense actually holds up very, very nicely so far for the most part. I've died a few times, but it's softcore and I'm not playing like a hardcore player would. So I think the setup is actually quite tanky for the crap amount of zero gear investment it has. So yeah, the only problem I have right now, this build has actually become very difficult to follow for you guys in SSF. This series was meant to be a, hey, let's level alongside each other and play like a similar build, and now I found a freaking Pledge of Hands. I mean, the foible I think is doable, it's chanceable as well, if you want to do that. But the Pledge of Hands is probably not a reachable goal for most Soul Self-Found players in like mid-tier maps, because currently I have my Awakening level 3 completed, and I've socketed 3 Watchstones in all my inner areas, currently trying to break into red maps by running all my like tier 8 plus maps that I currently have. So I've rolled a lot of them, trying to drop like lots of tier 10 maps, and then I slowly break into tier 11 and 12 while farming my 4th set of of stones, and then eventually summoning the first Cirrus. Alright, I think that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something from it, and if you did, feel free to subscribe. And if you like enjoying this content for a while now, you can check over at my Patreon, support me like these people did. Always nice to have a little bit of money sustain when something breaks, or just like improving my YouTube gear over time without having to justify it to the wife. That's always nice. Alright, until then, I'm Yoji, and I will see you guys soon.